Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. Long time coming, but today we are talking about this. Why does it never focus? The Hearach. Stunning bottle, very beautiful thing. This is going to be a shorter video than I imagined because I wrote 2 pages of information and stuff about this whiskey and its origins, and then I realised that's kind of overkill. Essentially, it's the first ever legal distillate whiskey from the Isle of Hearachs distillery, the first in a very long time since distilleries were closed down. I think it said in the when the clearances were happening, so it was 1860s or 1840s. So this is the first legal whiskey from that island since it is a 46% ABV, non-chill filtered natural colour, single malt, matured in bourbon, sherry, and fino sherry barrels, which in itself is quite interesting. I'm a big fan of Isle of Hearachs gin. And this, in all honesty, has probably been, maybe with the exception of Daffmill, the most sort of built-up, inaugural release of a single malt for a very long time. It came in this rather fetching box. It's a very pretty box. I've kept it. You see on there, it just says like, Phil's paid for serving it, so anyone else. Very pretty box. I will eventually be throwing this away. I've kept it for this video. However, it's all held together by this little tab, which was glued here. Mine fell off, and as I was lifting these out of the cases to put them on display in the shop I work in, this one just broke, so I thought, well, I'll buy that one because I'm going to work it anyway. It all kind of folds out into this rather lengthy thing. I've left the booklet somewhere in this little pouch. It came with a very detailed booklet, and even on here we have like lyrics to a Gaelic tune, which is quite fun. I also do love this sort of stone effect. Again, if it will focus, please take the focus off my face, I beg you. You can kind of see it there better, this kind of stone effect on the box. I think it's fabulous. The gin's really good, and I think it might be my favourite gin ever, actually. I go through quite a lot of bottles of that when making Negronis and things. But yeah, this thing was sold out twice over in the company I work in, and I don't think we can get any more. But yes, it's just incredible demand. I can throw that box away now. It also came with a little coaster, which I think I might keep. I'm not too sure. I really need to figure this camera out. You see it there? And on the other side it says Hearach. Quite a nice little thing, that. I don't think I'll keep that because it's kind of in the way. So, the whiskey. Bourbon, sherry and fino. Interesting combination. Not something that most people would do. This is the first release. It is batch number 7. It is HE000723. If you go to the website and put that code in, it will tell you numerous things about your batch and the ppm levels and stuff. ppm level is between 12 to 14 ppm. Apparently though, batch 7 is the peatiest batch. And I think a lot of people were confused about the output. So there's 8 batches. I think people thought it was 13,000 bottles altogether. I think it's 13,000 per batch. So it's quite a lot of whiskey. I'm trying to do the maths in my head of the amount of bottles we got as a company. It was quite a lot. So I'd imagine that, yeah, there probably is about 13,000 bottles per batch. But batch 1 is already selling for like crazy money. It was £65 a bottle. Here it is in the glass. And when I first opened it, I was kind of like, nice, very good. I still have that opinion, so I suppose you don't actually have to watch the review now because I've told you how I feel about it. But I've just come back from Glasgow for a meeting, and I had a sample of this on the train up, which was quite early in the morning. I did have some suspicious looks on me. And then today, on the way down again, which was a more normal time, about sort of 4:30 in the evening. And my opinion on it drastically changed each time. And that was quite interesting. So I'm filming this now, just got back in, so I can already still remember the taste of this. Well, let's smell it, let's see what's going on. So the aroma on this thing is one of the reasons I really liked it on the first sip, on the first taste I should say. There's loads of tropical fruit with it. For such a young whiskey, I would love to try the new make. I've heard from a fellow colleague of mine that the new make is incredible. And with this, you just get this really prominent pineapple apricot thing on the nose. It's like dried fruits and dried tropical fruit and like the juices of fruit. Very welcoming, very very alluring for such a young spirit. I can't remember if the whiskey was distilled in 2015 or 2016. That fact eludes me, unfortunately. It was in the booklet, and I've thrown the booklet away for some reason. But yeah, it's not particularly old stock. Pushing through that tropical fruit, we have the smoke. It's coming across as less medicinal, more that kind of ashy sort of smoke. It sits more in that kind of Campbelltown style of smoke. It's not that Islay-like. Does remind me quite a lot of the finish of Torre Vague, which is loads of citrus fruit and a bit of smoke. But overall, it's really sweet and welcoming. It smells like a bag of Skittles. There's just tons of fruit in there, but with no colouring. If we can get this camera to behave, try and get it to focus. It's got a hell of a body on it. Yeah, that's some oily whiskey for something so young. I wonder if peated distillate is oilier than non-peated distillate. Question for the room. Feel free to answer. And now it's leaning more into slightly bitter things, but again, it's fruity. It's orange. It's like orange peel and orange pith and orange oil and all that sort of stuff. Really sweet. So this was the taste I got on the way down. I was up to Glasgow, the first trip up to Glasgow, yesterday morning. Whereas on the way back today, all I got was the smoke. Now, granted, the heating was on in the train because it's quite cold right now. The train was packed. It was much busier than it was when I went up. So I don't know if that impacts it. The sample had been in my bag all day. There's numerous factors as to may what have changed it, but I'll talk about what I didn't like about it in a second. But we'll taste it now and see what's going on. We'll get a little bit of both worlds. The first thing I want to talk about is the finish. It has this beautiful, almost like ancho, chili, habanero spiciness to it. Like chili pepper spice. It's like a little depth charge and you just feel this gradual warmth come out of it. Downside to the finish, and I'm not really one to criticise this. I don't mind spirit-driven style. I love young peated whiskey. I love Ardent American. It's very spirit driven. Even bourbon, to a degree, is quite spirit driven. This has... I don't know what this tastes like, but it's something that people always use as a descriptor when they talk about sort of youthful whiskey. And it's almost like that wet cardboard thing. And there is like a mustiness and just this off note running through the back of it that I'm not a fan of. The habanero thing and the chili is delicious, but then it's kind of intercepted by this cardboardy off, almost musty, like a not nice musty sort of note. The initial arrival is great. Reminds me very much of like Reposado tequila, which they're not the same. But I suppose in the world of whiskey, this is relatively young spirit, which hasn't been aged for that long. Reposado tequila is not aged for that long either, so we're kind of in a similar ballpark in terms. And it has, again, with that youthful spirit, the peatiness of it comes across as almost agave-like. It's sweet, it's quite oily, it's very visceral, kind of comes in your mouth. Very reminiscent of things like Ardbeg, which we spoke about in the Rose Isle video last week. But the downside to this, and as I was on the way back down on the train, I was tasting it again. So it can't be the sample because this is tasting very similar. On your first sip, you get all these things separately. The agave thing, the ancho chili thing, the cardboard note, which is like off screen all the way down there. But the more you drink it, the closer this kind of off note approaches. Now, I'm not going to be really critical on this whiskey. It's their first ever single malt. And apparently they are bringing out like just a regular release to come out quite soon. And before we get into like my opinion on it, I love this bottle. This reminds me of not precisely, but almost like the decanters that Gordon MacPhail put their like 60 and 70-year-old whiskey in, those sort of short, chunky, long neck decanters. Love the bottle. Probably keep that as like a water bottle or something for the table. But when you think about it for the money, if you're buying this to collect it, I understand that. If you're going to collect inaugural whiskies and you happen to get a bottle of batch one, yeah, you know, you do you. When these came in, I was like, I'm going to buy one because it's interesting and there's like a fair chunk been taken out of that already. For the money, if you wanted a similar youthful, probably younger actually, or maybe even the same age, a similarly aged, mostly all first fill bourbon product, like Torre Vague is incredible. And Torre Vague this year's really sort of won my heart. I don't think it'll get whiskey of the year, but it'll be in like the top 5 for sure. But this to me feels good, great launch, love the distillery, love the product. I just don't know if you needed that many batches. You knew demand was going to be big, but I feel like with the amount of batches and what I theorise to be the amount of whiskies released within those batches, that musty note, as it comes through even more. If you add water to this, it's even more like prevalent. You can really pick it up a lot more. Luckily, it's not on the nose though. It just begins to creep through and becomes quite frustrating, really. I still need to send a few samples of this to people I work with because they've not tried it yet. But yeah, I think it's great design, great release. It's awesome for the Isle of Hearachs. You know, they're a local distillery. They employ, their employment capacity on the island is so important for what they do. And, you know, this is just one release in what they will do in the future. So you can't be too critical about it. But apart from it finally being released, I don't really get the hype. Like, it's fine. Maybe the world is too whiskey hyped anyway, and that's where this sort of negating opinion I have is coming from. But yeah, I think overall it is perfectly fine whiskey. I would take Torre Vague hand over fist. I can get Glengarry 12 for like £10 less. Even Legic 10 I can get for like 15 quid less than this. And they are better. It's just the thing. Not to be too critical, you know, it's sold out, everyone's bought it, whether you're drinking it or collecting it. I'd be intrigued to know if people who have different batches have different tasting notes to me. Genuinely. But yeah, overall, I'm going to give it like a 7. It's a perfectly fine whiskey. It reminds me of nice tequila. The peat level is interesting. The bottle's interesting. The whole release was interesting. But it's okay. It's fine. It's nothing crazy. I'm actually reviewing a new blend next week, of which I've got like this much of the bottle left because it's been very tasty the more it's gone down the bottle. That is cheaper than this by about £5 and is also, like, for me anyway, a more interesting product. But yeah, overall, the Hearach gets a 7 out of 10 from me. It's okay. Most people are just going to keep it in a cupboard for however many years. But yes, thank you all for watching. That did turn out to be quite a long video anyway. And I will see you all next week. Cheers.